Welcome to the Onyx Pathcast. I'm this week's host, Dixie Cochran, here with Matthew Dawkins.
Hello.
And Eddy Webb. Why are you evil laughing?
Sorry, we were talking about supervillains earlier, so
Yeah.
it's on my head.
But also, we're all together again. We
That's
haven't been
true,
together
yes,
for a few
because
weeks.
you guys left me, abandoned me.
Well,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it was deserved. After you broke Lisa's iPad.
That's a joke for exactly 7 people. If you're not, I'm not even going to explain it. Yes, Eddy broke his iPad. That's the thing that happened.
That's fair. That's fair.
So Matthew and I came back to find Eddy just sitting at the door, pawing at it and whining a little bit.
And we thought, oh shit, we forgot to unlock the Eddy flap.
I'm just picturing like a human-shaped flap in the door, like when someone in a cartoon like runs through a wall, they leave like a perfect human-shaped.
Oh yeah,
hole.
a crime scene, white tape around it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So like Eddy has to like put his body in a specific configuration to go through the flap.
Would you just let me open the door?
This is my hole, I think, is the Junju Ito quote. If you're not familiar with Junju Ito and his horrific manga, I recommend it. if you like horror stories about people disappearing into cave sides and other such things.
Okay.
I do like Junju Ito, but I don't know which one you're talking about right now, so I might have to go back and reread. I haven't read Junju Ito in a while.
Okay, so there is a Junju Ito story where people start suddenly gravitating toward this mountain or cliffside. You're never really given a sense of scope or where, presumably Mount Fuji, because these things often take place around Tokyo. And there's human-shaped holes, much as we just described for Eddy, in the side of this cliff, and more of them just seem to appear overnight. And someone suddenly starts raving that this one is my hole, this is my perfect shape. And they just start climbing into it, and people try and pull them out, but no one else can fit into that exact shape. And they just kind of shuffle bodily deeper and deeper into the hole. And I won't explain what occurs next, but yeah, it gets very weird and quite scary.
Yeah. A lot of body horror in Junju Ito stuff, if I remember correctly, which you're a fan of, Matthew.
Yes, I'm a big fan of David Cronenberg. He is one of my favorite movie directors, and I don't think many people do body horror better than Cronenberg.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite Cronenberg work?
Dead Ringers. And
yeah,
and that's a bit of a hipsterish answer, I know, because he's done more successful movies. But I think
I like Dead Ringers. It's real weird.
It is really weird. I think what makes it stand out most of all is Jeremy Irons' performance as the twins Beverly and Elliot is just you completely forget within about 5 minutes of meeting Jeremy Irons twice that that both these characters are being played by the same actor.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the fact, facially, they look identical. It's not like one Jeremy Irons has a beard and the other doesn't.
And they're also dressed pretty much the same through the whole thing, aren't they?
Yep. And I watched an interview or read an interview where Jeremy Irons explained how he did it. And it was all about where he was putting his balance. And so one of his characters would be on the sort of balls of his feet and the other would constantly be rocking back on his heels. And it was purely through body language that he was able to convey that these two characters were different, to the point that even though there are characters in the movie who, throughout the course of the movie, are fooled into thinking they're speaking to Beverly or Elliot, you always know, as the viewer, which one you're looking at, despite the fact they are never addressed in the right way necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's and of course beyond that there is the just bizarre plot as regards to twins and the psychic link that twins might have, and their obsession with motherhood and I guess returning to the womb. And this
and the drugs and the fact that they're gynecologists with the weirdest tools in the universe.
Yeah. It's
I Eddy hasn't seen it, so all he's hearing is us talking about how weird this movie is.
But yeah, Dead Ringers, definitely recommend it. It's a movie I don't think a lot of modern audiences have seen, but I mean,
recommend it with a
out.
lot of content warnings.
Oh yeah.
like just a shit ton of content warnings.
Yeah. Don't be mistaken, it is a horror movie. And while it is played like a drama, it is a horrific drama.
I haven't seen it in a while, but I have seen it, and it is good. So
yeah, it's not the kind
weird.
of movie you go back to. It's a little like Requiem for a Dream, which is the movie often cited like this. That when you watch it, you are profoundly struck by it, and can't help but admire its critical excellence. But you're very unlikely to then go to a friend and say, "Hey, do you fancy watching this with me next week?" You've got to give it a cool down period of about a decade.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a while before I want to watch Midsommar again. Like, I watched it once. It was an experience. It was very good. I enjoyed the experience. I don't know that I want to experience that again anytime soon.
Yeah, I felt that way about Old Boy.
Oh yeah.
It's another one where it's like, it's a fantastic film, but man, you would not pay me money to watch that movie again.
Yeah.
See, whereas I am different on Old Boy. Old Boy is a movie I can watch and rewatch, and it's probably because for me it only starts to become very, very uncomfortable in the last 15 minutes. I mean,
man, the last 15 minutes will fuck with you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of scenes of true unpleasantness throughout the entire thing. But it is such a non-stop movie that I can just get carried away with it. And then, the ending hits me, but by that point it's too late and I've got to see it through. Audition, on the other hand, is a Japanese movie by Takashi
Seen that
Miike.
once.
Yeah, which has actually the same kind of build as Old Boy. But it's more ratcheting up of suspense than lots of action sequences, and then the suspense pays off in a way that I can only describe as kiri 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 kiri.
Yeah. I do need to correct you on one thing. Mm-hmm. It's Takashi Miike.
Miike, sorry. Yeah,
it's all right.
Sorry, Takashi.
He also did Ichi the Killer.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other like movies that I used to watch at parties in my early 20s people would put on.
Right.
And you would like look away for a while and you'd look back and be like, what the fuck is happening on screen right now?
Yeah, yes. in a lot of ways he's the, if not the father of the inheritor of Japanese or East Asian hardcore cinema. He's very much responsible for a lot of how the West perceives Japanese horror, which is unfair because there's an awful lot of just subtle horror and schlocky horror, just like we have. Yeah. But Takashi Miike has a massive catalogue of movies that would never ever get made in Hollywood or through the British movie industry. They're just so distinctly him. Even his action movies, like Dead or Alive, are pretty grotesque in parts, in ways that you wouldn't get with a Vin Diesel movie.
I have very visceral memories of my friends when I was like between 18 and 20, let's say, getting, we would have parties and stuff, and they would get these movies that you couldn't get in the US at the time. They would buy them at like anime conventions. Right. And that's how I saw Ichi the Killer, Audition, Battle Royale, and Suicide Club. Was all like at a party drinking like a Smirnoff Ice or something because it was 2003. And like having it on kind of in the background, but it was subtitled. So if you weren't looking at the screen, you didn't know what the hell was happening unless you spoke Japanese, which I was not. I've never been fluent, even though I took it for a while. But like, it's like I saw them in the weirdest way possible, and then would go back later and watch them by myself and be like, oh, it's actually a really good and terrifying movie. But when you're seeing it in like snatches while also trying to have a conversation with, 12 other people who are in the room, and like someone's making food and someone's making jokes and somebody's just completely not paying attention and like working on a role-playing game character or something. It's like, that's not the ideal way to view Japanese horror movies.
No, I would say watching them in your early 20s is just about the right age range to watch those kinds of movies, because it's when you're old enough to watch them and not necessarily suffer a series of horrifying nightmares, though you might, but not quite old enough to have the empathy that makes it so revolting you can't watch it.
Yeah. I have found that the older I get, the less I like just weirdly gory horror movies for gore's sake.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy a good psychological story. I enjoy a good suspense story. Yep. I like some true crime type stuff and some serial killer type stuff. But like, if it's just like right before we started recording, I mentioned Hannibal, which I love, and I love it because even when it's gory, it's kind of beautiful, and it's meant to be this kind of like very artistic gore on some level. And I plan to watch the Clarice show that they're putting out in like a month or so, I think, because it takes place about a year after the events of Silence of the Lambs. And it's an investigative story following Clarice Starling, and I'm looking forward to that. But like, I see this stuff where it's like, oh, it's the most brutal horror movie, and I'm like, I don't want to watch that. Like, I actually appreciate that Midsommar was light on the gore. It's a horrifying movie, but it actually only has about 2 scenes that I was like, ugh, at, you know. So yeah, I don't know. Your tastes change as you age, I guess. I'm 35 and not 21 anymore.
Apparently, we all turn into radical conservatives. So
someone told me that, and I keep getting more leftist, and I just don't know.
Weird.
Like,
at some point, you just flip around. It's a circle, and you reach.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, I was also told that I would grow out of wanting to dye my hair weird colors, but you know, I'll be 36 in 3 months here, and it's still green. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm sitting here in my mid-40s going, I mean, I need more tattoos. So, you know, I'm also not kind of going.
I love that you just got your first tattoo like within the past year, and now you have more tattoos than I do. And I've been getting tattoos since I was 18.
I gotta catch up.
I mean, you've surpassed me, I think, at this point. You've got far larger ones than I do. You've got far more than I do. But one thing I think about hitting in your mid-40s and deciding to get tattoos is that you have a very clear idea of what you want. Yeah. Whereas if you look at the ones I got when I was like 18 and 21 and whatever, they're okay. They could have been better and more cohesive. Luckily, they're not like giant arm pieces or anything.
Right.
My one large arm piece is one that I got in my 30s. But like, it's just, I don't know. I definitely would have had a more cohesive plan for my tattoos if I had started getting them now.
Right, and like, I mean, I have like somewhat of a cohesive plan, but also like I'm also reaching a point where it's like that would be cool and that would be cool. Because also I've noticed the tattoo journey is like the first one's like there's all this meaning and idea behind it, and now I'm like my 7th or 8th, I'm just like fuck it, that's
Transformers.
Right, yeah. Why the hell not? What's the meaning behind it? It looked cool.
I mean, I still want a Sailor Moon tattoo purely because I've loved Sailor Moon since I was 10. Like, totally. I don't know what kind of Sailor Moon tattoo I'm gonna get, and that's always been kind of my like hang up with it. Is I'm like, do I get Sailor Saturn? Do I just get her weapon? Do I get like a kind of a cool traditional style tattoo that is Sailor Moon adjacent? Like, I'm so torn on it that I've just never bit the bullet and gotten a Sailor Moon tattoo, because I'm like, there's so many things I would like from Sailor Moon. Like, should I do a Sailor Moon like whole calf piece of like a bunch of different stuff? I don't know.
Sailor Moon in American traditional style would actually be really interesting to see.
So there was one. There's a pin that I saw on Instagram a while back. Like someone made like an enamel pin, and it's a traditional style tattoo where it's the hand holding the moon stick, her transformation wand, and it says "the babe with the power." So it's also a labyrinth reference. And I like that, and I've thought about getting that and then modifying it from being the moon stick to being Sailor Saturn's transformation pen, because she's my favorite.
Totally.
But yeah, I don't know. Tattoo discussion. Anyway, we're talking about workflow this week.
Apparently, I mean, I've yet to see any evidence. It's pretty much what Rich says to us in every Monday meeting. We're talking about work, really?
Well, this is what happens when we don't get together for like weeks on end.
Honestly, yeah, y'all, you don't even. We talked for an hour before we started recording about all kinds of bullshit, like all kinds of TV shows, animes, like various horror things, game stuff, work stuff, like whatever. It is 11:20 right now in the morning, and we have been recording since 10 a.m. or hanging out since 10 a.m. We've been recording for 15 minutes.
Yeah, in fairness, Rich, as you're listening and you pay us, some of that was work related. There you go. It was like a water cooler talk.
I said there was work talk.
Yeah, remember those days, listeners, when you could meet people around the water cooler without worrying about infecting them or catching an infection?
I've actually never had a job where that was a thing.
But I never had a conversation by a water cooler. I was always worried I'd be blocking the water cooler.
I also know that Rich isn't going to be too worried about it because, like, last time we had a business meeting between him and I, we ended up talking for like 30 minutes about Conan comics from the 70s. So, I mean, like, this happens.
Yeah, less of that double standard, Rich.
You're acting like he cracks down on us for admitting that we do things like play Mario Kart. Like, we're allowed to take breaks as long as our work gets done.
Yeah.
Speaking of work.
So, our topic this week that we are just now getting to at minute 16 is workflow, which is we've talked before about how the process works for like Onyx Path, like we do, first drafts, red lines, approvals, but we haven't talked a lot about how our individual like work day looks or how a work week might look. Eddy's taught a few classes on this to Onyx Path freelancers. I've actually taken a couple of them because workflow is something that I had major trouble with when I started doing this. I'm one of the only people, like I think of all of the core team, I'm one of the few people that has never worked in an office environment. And I've also never worked on my own. I come from a retail background. And so I'm used to, you go into work and you get told where you're going to be that day.
Yeah.
Or you get told what your project is for that day and you do it. And then if you finish early, you go to your boss and you go, what else do you want me to do? And that's where I come from. So suddenly being in this environment where you're expected to just figure it all out for yourself was a little rough for me for a while. And figuring out various tools and things like that. So I'm going to let Eddy go ahead and kind of do a little intro to how you'd like to talk about this, because this is going to be a lot of your episode with Matthew and I think, jumping in.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Well, I mean, the problem, especially when you're working by yourself, you have to kind of end up being your own manager,
right?
Which means that you have to make a plan. And one thing I've actually been talking with some developers recently about is there's a confusion about how important planning is. It is important to understand this is what I intend to do today. This is what I intend to do this week. This is what I intend to do in the next few months. But also recognizing that it plans can and probably should change based on how things go, because you can't anticipate. Let's use an example, Dixie. You can't anticipate me dropping a manuscript at your desk going, hey, I need this edited in a week.
Yeah. And honestly, it took me a long time. So this is something for all my work from home friends. It took me a long time to stop beating myself up for not anticipating those things. Because I would be like, oh, I'm going to get X done this week. And then something priority would come in. And then I would get mad at myself for not getting X done, even though X wasn't a priority, really. Like the fact that I could put X aside to work on Y meant that it was totally fine if X took an extra week. But I would get all mad at myself because I'd be like, I didn't get this thing done this week. I suck. But I got other things done this week. And you have to let yourself celebrate that.
Right. But the reverse is also not good. If you just say, well, I'm just not going to plan at all. I'm just going to pick up work to work on that, because then you find you're grinding against one project that probably nobody's expecting you to work on right away. And stuff that is high priority is just sitting there, nothing happening. I have found the best way that works for me is a system of constantly replanning. What I generally do, and I guess like Dixie said, I have a YouTube video on the Onyx Path channel where I talk about how that details of this, but in a high level, we have to, as a group, look at what's coming up, what's urgent, what needs to be pushed along, and that's part of what our Monday meetings are. Every week we kind of talk about where our projects are at, but also we do have quarterly production meetings where it's three of us along with Matt McGower in operations and Rich. We talk about what's on the horizon, what we want the kind of targets, what's our next couple months of Kickstarter maybe going to look like, what kind of sales are coming up, what kind of promotions are happening, and prior to this year, what kind of conventions were coming up.
What's a convention?
It's a place where lots of people get together without masks. I know it's a horror story, right?
No, I hate that.
Yeah, I think I'll be putting that off for a while.
I am still having trouble watching television shows where people don't have I've been watching, this is a total tangent, I don't care. I've been watching The Strain.
Oh yeah.
Because I like vampire stuff, and I actually before this I like pandemic disaster movies. I don't know why, it's a thing I enjoy. Luckily, this one doesn't look like one of those quite yet, but it's still really bad. But watching The Strain is so interesting because, like, there's a pandemic in New York. It turns people into vampires, but no one's wearing goddamn masks. And I realized that in the world of The Strain, it doesn't really matter because the little strain things will, like, go in through your hands or your legs or whatever. But it bothers me.
Yeah.
It bothers me every time. And I'm like, why? Why aren't you wearing masks? There's a pandemic. You don't know it's not airborne. You're just random people. So, yeah.
What are you doing? Yeah. So that gives a good sense of, I think, collectively our large scale plan. Okay,
yeah.
I need to work on this Pugmire book, or I need to work on Anima, or Dixie needs to how to prioritize her editing tasks, or what have you.
Yeah, it also really helps me prioritize things when I know, like, what our next 3 Kickstarters are going to be. Because sometimes we send an unedited manuscript to Kickstarter on purpose because we think that, like, some stuff might change based on fan reaction, or based on people catching things or noticing things that we just didn't notice in the development. But sometimes it's better to just send the edited text to Kickstarter because we're pretty comfortable that the book's going to be fine, and there aren't going to be any large scale changes. Because, like, if you send a book to a Kickstarter and it turns out that it needs a chapter partially rewritten and it's already been edited, sometimes I don't actually get to see it again. And so it doesn't get edited. I feel like the little part of it. So we need to, like, plan all that out so we know what's going on. And also, I need to know if we're doing the Pugmire, like, next Pugmire Kickstarter in, April or June. I'm not making any actual promises. I'm just saying random months, people.
Club number, yes.
Just for the listeners. But, like, if the next Pugmire Kickstarter is in April or June or whatever, then I don't have to edit it right now because it doesn't take me 4 months to edit a book, So I can sit on that for a minute and maybe get some stretch goals out to backers instead because people are waiting on those. And it's cool to go ahead and get some stretch goals out. So it's like constant balancing act with, like, what we're going to be doing and what's coming up next. Are we doing Exalted? Are we doing Pugmire? Are we doing Mage? Like, we have so many different lines going on. And so that's really interesting to me, is like, and also just really useful, is having, like, Matt and Rich and everybody, like, talk about what the plan's going to be. Because I need
that. Exactly, and then that helps us make. So I mean, but those are really, again, high level decisions like we're talking about here. Those meetings are usually not the place where we're going, okay, Dixie, I need you to do this editing on this week of this month, kind of stuff. It's more, that's the strategy. It's like, by this time in 3 months, we want to be in this place. And then from that kind of high level planning, you have to go to kind of, okay, figure out all your tasks, all the things I need to do to get to that stage, write them all down or put them on a board or whatever. And then each week, it's like, okay, what needs to be done this week? Well, these things need to be done this week. Those are high priority. And these things I would like to get done this week. And that's your kind of weekly plan. And then every day, I plan every day. So it's like this, sometimes there's obvious plans like, okay, every Monday I'm going to have Monday meetings. So let's just, I do that on Monday. I can't really adjust that. These recordings we do on a very specific day. But then, like, other stuff, like, okay, I need to develop this chapter. It needs to be done. So I'll probably try to do it earlier on in the week just to make sure that it's done. But there may be a day where it's like, okay, I'm just not in the headspace to work on this. Like, for example, there were events happening in January in the United States, which made it hard to develop a book about a fascist cyberpunk government.
Really? I wonder what that could be. Weird.
So Anima was a bit of a challenge. So I was okay, I'm just gonna focus some other stuff that's equally priority. So I just pulled some other tasks across and focus on those on a daily basis until I got into the right headspace to work on that. So that's a whole lot of planning. If you listen to that, it's like we have a large scale plan, we have weekly plan, we have daily plan, and every day I usually am pretty okay with my daily plans, but weekly plans almost never survive contact. Some stuff pops up. This thing suddenly is high priority. A good example is on Anima. I had been like, okay, I'm ready to start working on this now, getting things moving. And then Rich is like, hey, I need notes because I'm working on the cover sketch. I'm like, well, crap. And so I had to change how I was approaching the development of that because I need to get certain information to Rich relatively quickly. So that's a kind of the case where it's like, okay, these things I was going to do later in the week, I need to do earlier so I can get the information Rich needs to him. Meetings will pop up sometimes where it's like, good example is Dixie, hey, Eddy, can you have to half an hour talk me through a thing or bounce my ideas off you, or sometimes I'll call Matthew and vent about stuff or whatever. So those kind of ad hoc meetings will pop up. Or like sometimes a developer's struggling and I'll schedule a call with them later on in the week. Like, hey, let's just go ahead and talk this over. So again, you can't plan this stuff. So you plan with the best intentions. But as long as work is happening and as long as I call momentum is occurring, you're fine. There have been days where my head is so strange. I'll be like, I'm going to work on this today. And then I get the afternoon, it's like, I'm just not feeling it. So I'm going to pull over this other task that I kind of want to work on anyway. And then I feel bad because like, I cheated on this work task to work on this work task instead. And I'm bad because I didn't do this exact work task. And it's like, I know, it's fine. Work is getting done. But you can get so enamored of the plan. So I mean, I still do it. It's not like it's some kind of magical thing where it's like suddenly you're always flew with your plan. It doesn't happen.
Also, sometimes you just need a break from something. Like if I'm working on a manuscript that just isn't like my cup of tea, because like I think every game they put out is a good game, but we are not all fans of every single game we put out and every single theme and everything, whatever. Because like they're all good, but they're all for different people, and some of them aren't as much for me. So if I'm not a Werewolf the Apocalypse fan. I have been vocal about that in the past. That's fine. It's just not for me. I've never been into werewolf media in general. I'd much prefer to be like aware or something else. So if I'm editing a werewolf thing, for instance, I might get very bored of it or very just like, I don't want to work on this. So I can go work on something else for a couple hours or a day or two and then come back to it. And that just happens sometimes. Also, some manuscripts are more difficult than others. And so sometimes you're like hammering away at something that's a little bit harder to like get into shape. And it's nice to turn around and, edit or write or review something that is just going to be delightful to you because it's clean and it's easy. And that's just the nature of the work, really.
Matthew, you were going to say something?
Well, just to agree, really. The fact of needing to switch between tasks sometimes because of impromptu meetings or because an assignment has suddenly hit your inbox. Sometimes it is a demand because something is declared more urgent than another, and if anything, that makes the decision making a lot easier because someone else is then telling you, hey, get this done quickly. And you think, okay, well, I did it because they asked me to. But I guess it highlights to me the difference between, or one of the differences in my workflow as a writer and developer and my workflow when I was, an administrator at an investments firm, where we still had so many cases that we had to get through in a day, but you would have to prioritize based on things like cutoffs at certain points of the day. Like all foreign payments had to be made by 10:30. So you would work on that, despite the fact that was probably the hardest thing you had to do all day. You would try and bust through all of those before 10 a.m. so you could comfortably submit them for checking and make sure they were correct. If they were wrong, you'd still have enough time to get them right, that sort of thing. And you would either set yourself these times, these deadlines throughout the day, or they would just be set by the company you worked for. And
Right.
things started changing for me when I started training people, because I was very much a sort of one-man team. And this was before I started doing writing and development full-time, but at that point, I would look at a company. I'd be told, you need to train everyone at this company on this, or this many people at this company on this. But you couldn't train them all at the same time, because some of them still needed to be doing the work. They couldn't all just go into an auditorium for 3
Right.
hours or 3 days. So you then had to start breaking things down and working out, okay, how long is it going to take for me to write this training? How long is it going to take for me to deliver it? How long is it going to take me to do assessments? How many people can I take out at a time? How many negotiations am I going to have with managers to release this many people from these teams at this time? That sort of thing. And when I had to start thinking like that, that's still the same logic I apply to my work with Onyx Path and other RPG companies. It's well, how much time can I realistically set aside for this? Am I going to have enough energy to focus on this in the same day that I do that? And as a result, my work plan ends up being pretty robust. It certainly breaks down at times, just as you said, Eddie. Sometimes it just doesn't survive contact if it's a week-long plan. But other times it does, because I've got it down to a pretty regimented art. The only times it invariably breaks down is when we have things like childcare, which is very demanding for me, of course, or global pandemics. So the last year, that robust plan has kind of gone out the window. But it's interesting. Obviously the scenery that you work in, the company you're working for, or the type of work you're doing, is of course going to direct an awful lot of how you're able to prioritize, focus, and how much work you're going to be able to get through in a day. And it's interesting to me to see that journey.
Yeah, and I think the way we're structured is a bit unusual in the fact that we do have a kind of a tiered system of people who can help set those priorities. So like at the top, obviously, if Rich is like, hey guys, I need you to do this, guess what? We're doing that. Rich ultimately gets to make those calls. Sometimes there is sideways discussion, like if Mike needs something for art, usually we try to pivot and accommodate him. But on the flip side, if we need something for Mike, he also tries to turn it around pretty quickly for us. So we can kind of, we don't do it very often. We do occasionally set priority. And occasionally we've done it for each other too. Like I've gone to Matthew, say, hey Matthew, I need something that came from Big First Story Path reasons, or at Dixie, hey, can you turn around this editing in like a couple of days because it's a very small thing I need done quickly. So there is some sideways priority, but again, that's much more on the case of I'm in the middle of X task and I need Y thing so I can get it to Z deadline, not in the, hey, I'm telling you to do this because this is what the company needs. So it's more of a helping peers out priority. We set a certain amount of priority to our developers under us. And if there's a line that has a line developer, usually we do that through the line developer. So I'll talk with Neil, and like if these are the books we should be prioritizing for Scion. He'll pitch ideas usually, and then I'll like, hey, we should do this versus that. I'll have similar conversations with Ian on the Trinity side. I understand, Dixie, you do the same thing for Exalted as well.
For Essence.
I was about to say for Essence, I guess. So the entire line of Essence.
For the one book we've done for Exalted Essence, yeah.
Right. And also for the Chronicles books too. And then if there's a line developer, that line developer will then let the individual project developers know what their rough timelines are and whatnot. If not, then we'll directly talk to individual project developers, say, hey, this is what I need a deadline for. Again, it all comes from that kind of earlier high-level meeting of like, this is what we need to look at. Like, for example, before 2020 happened, we had wanted to get a couple of the new Scion books out in Kickstarter in 2020. We wanted to get Dragon and Mass Mythos out, kind of, because it was let's use 2020 as a year to kind of get Demigod out there, but also start showing people that we're moving in new directions with Scion beyond just reprinting the old books in new editions. And then, of course, that didn't happen. That plan didn't survive contact, so we had to adjust it. But now, still, January, we're doing that. So it's like pretty close to 2020, all things considered. It's actually did a pretty good job there. But then I went and talked to Neil about that, and then we figured out where the priorities of books are. And so we talked through that. And then he and I talked to the individual project developers about, okay, let's get this book out. Let's get this book out. I need to have this by this date. I need to have that by that date. So there is still some of that, what you're talking about, Dixie, in terms of a boss telling you what to do, but it's much more abstract.
Yeah, I mean, it pops up here and there when certain things need to get done, but it's not their day-to-day usually.
Right. No, you still have to kind of self-motivate.
Yeah. Which is always fun, you know. and honestly can be hard. So, what do you do to keep yourself motivated throughout the day? Like, especially one of the issues that I found personally is that since I'm mostly like throughout the course of one day, I'm accountable to myself, right? More than I'm accountable to, once again, a boss. Like if I'm working at Sephora, my boss can see if I'm just standing around doing nothing. But one of the issues I've had off and on, and I mean, I feel like I've mostly overcome it at this point, but is that sometimes you're sitting here and you're like, I could be playing a video game and nobody would know. Or I don't want to do work today. And granted, sometimes just taking a day off to recharge is the best thing you can do. But if you need to get work done and you're not feeling it, what are some tips and tricks that you have to kind of make yourself push past that?
I'll be honest, one of the things that's actually been helpful in the past year is that both my wife and my roommate are working from home right now. And so I have something closer to an actual office environment. And that does help because it's they're working, so I should probably be working too. And if I just fuck off, they would not begrudge me at all if I just fucked off for a time. But it's that kind of implicit social pressure. And it's like, I should probably be working too. And so there's a couple times where I've been like, I don't want to do this, but I see Michelle's in a call and David's upstairs and the dog's asleep. So yeah, I should probably do this. But before that, pre-COVID time, I would sometimes go to different locations, go in coffee shops or library or whatnot, because then it's I came here to work. So now that I'm here, I should actually do the work that I came here to do. That's kind of the sunk cost fallacy to a degree. It's like I made this effort, so I should use the effort there. Also, just time boxing, where it's okay, I'm going to work on this for half an hour, so I get something done.
Right.
And I have found, for me, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, but I know definitely for me, starting is often the hardest part. If I just get started, then usually half an hour in, I'm like, okay, now I'm doing this. It's like, if I was like, well, okay, well, maybe I'll stop after I do this one thing, and then let me just grab this one piece up, and then suddenly it's been 2-3 hours, and I've got 2-3 hours of work done. But also there are times where I do for half an hour work, and then afterwards I'm like, nope, that is it. That's all I got today. But I got like half an hour work done. So yeah, those things help.
It's the old intimidation of the blank page, isn't it? The writer's block that comes with the daunting process of knowing you have to write this many words and you have nothing in front of you. And for me, and I know I've certainly advised freelance writers that we hire on to do this, one of the best tools you can use is I guess compartmentalizing the work ahead of you. So if you have a 15,000 word assignment and you know roughly what it is to contain, then actually opening up your Word document, and all you need to really do is, well, this is all I do. I'll write a header of a section that I know I'm going to have to include. I'll even write quote him at quote face or something like that in the quote style. I'll then write attribution in the attribution style, because we almost always open chapters like that. And then I will write, I'll probably, for some reason, my finger always gravitates towards the letter F. I'm guessing that's because that's where my forefinger on my left hand rests when I'm typing. But I'll then hold on F for quite a while, which is probably also what I'm thinking. And after that, I will write underneath it something like 2,000 words. And I'll know what that section has got to contain by the fact that it's a title. That section has now been built. It's a skeleton. There's nothing else. There's no meat on it. And then I'll do the exact same thing below. And if I have any fantastic ideas at that point, I might put them in there in list form, just like I would if I was writing a game I was going to run. I would just write down the things I want to see happen in there, whether that's copying it from an outline and pasting it in, or whether it's just coming up with it off the cuff. And then I will leave it. I will very rarely stop at that stage and start writing en masse. So that really helps me in terms of, I guess, that blank page fear. But it's one of the things I really miss with this entire pandemic situation is, as you said, Eddie, the idea of going to a cafe or a bar or somewhere like that, or a library, and being able to write, because not only is it a chance for we people who work from home to see the world, even if it's just a different set of four walls, but you overhear a bit of conversation, you see some faces, you get to drink a tea or a coffee you don't usually get to drink. You're treating yourself as well, because you're probably eating away from home, so you might be spending a little more money than you would if you were at home. But I remember distinctly an assignment, it may have even, I don't think it was Beckett's, was a vampire assignment, so it may have been Chicago. And I went to a cafe and had been scratching my head over what I was going to write while I was at home for about 2 days. And I went to a cafe on the third day and managed to write something like 8,000 words in one sitting, well, with a lunch in the middle. Over the course of a day. And it was simply, at least as far as I'm concerned, because I had changed my scenery. I had just given myself the time, because I always walk into the city. I know that's not always possible in America because, for one thing, cities are often a lot larger and they're not always pedestrianised. Luckily, in the UK, pretty much all cities are accessible to pedestrians. And so I will spend 40 minutes walking into the city. And that's 40 minutes walking I probably wouldn't be doing if I wasn't going into the city to work. So not only am I working for less time when I'm there, because usually I'd be spending that 40 minutes at my desk and at the other end of the day too, I am somehow just divesting myself of all the baggage or all the thoughts that may have been, and all the distractions that would be on my mind if I was at home. And so by the time I get into town, I'm baggage free and able to just concentrate on work. So yeah, it always helps me.
The other thing that really helps with moving away is that you have less access to your own shit to distract you. So like it's really easy to reach over and grab your Switch and start playing if you're at home, but if you're going someplace else, you just don't have access to the same stuff. And usually the Wi-Fi is enough to get online, but not enough to actually like play a game, or sometimes it's kind of dodgy, so you can't have long conversations with people. Because I remember very vividly the last house I lived in, apartment I should say, I was working on Contagion Chronicle, and I was just banging my head against it. I was having so much trouble with it, and so out of desperation, I went to a grocery store locally called Whole Foods. I mean, it's a chain, but there was a Whole Foods near our house, and they have a little eating in area, so you can like order. It's like a little cafe space inside the grocery store. So I'm sitting here in a grocery store, and I cranked out like 4,000 words. Because I just needed to get out of my own head for a bit, and that was a way to do that. I have been hearing people doing remote versions of that, like just logging into a Discord channel and not even start talking to each other, but just kind of being there to hear people's tic-tacking, or being able to kind of like, oh, fuck this guy, and just venting for a minute or two. I have not tried that to see how useful it is, but other people said it's really useful. We've also internally been doing stand-ups every now and then, where we'll log into the Discord channel around 11:30 EST every day, and just spend 10 minutes talking about what we did yesterday, we're doing today, what's blocking us. And it's a short little 10, 15-minute thing, but it helps, it's helping me at least, to kind of think, okay, well, now I've talked through what my plan is. And I've already done some of it, but it's nice to kind of break in the day. It allows me to see some people and talk about the work I'm doing, as opposed to having people around the house where I can't always talk to them about what I'm doing, just don't have sometimes the context for it or whatever.
Right.
And then also just little things like walking my dog lately has been really helping me. It's like I'm struggling with something, so it's like, you know what, Barry probably needs a walk, and so I'll walk her for half an hour to come back. And just that, like you were saying, Matthew, about walking into the city, the act of walking around and not having a screen in front of you, sometimes I'll spur the mind, just start churning, and then you come back and like, oh, now I have ideas, and you start getting it down.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something that like I do miss. I kind of had the thought the other day that like it's been almost a year since someone handed me a menu. You know?
Wow.
And like I do miss that. And yeah, we like I unfortunately am not walking distance from the downtown area here. I mean, I technically am, but it's not a great walk. And
Right.
it would take a long time. So it's more like drive down to a parking garage and then walk from there.
Right.
But like I used to love to go to Starbucks. Also, like I live near Megan Fitzgerald, and you know, we used to go work at Starbucks together.
Mhm.
Like or at a local coffee shop called Caldy's. Like we would just go and we would sit and we'd work together and occasionally like, chat for a few minutes and then, you know, work some more. And it's nice. Like I found some ambient like coffee shop noises and stuff on a few apps. And it's
Oh.
actually not the worst thing ever. Because I'm so used to having like my earbuds in, but then I'm, you know, like you can still kind of hear like clinking glasses and stuff. So that's not the worst thing for white noise, because I do find that for me, like sitting in silence is hard.
Yeah.
But also music with words is distracting. So
Yep.
I listen to a lot of classical and video game soundtracks and movie soundtracks and stuff when I'm working.
I listen to lo-fi hip hop a lot.
Yeah, which I don't enjoy. I've tried.
Really?
It's not for me. Yeah,
Oh,
it
okay.
is not my genre, but that's okay.
But no, video game soundtracks are actually specifically great because movie soundtracks sometimes can be good, but also sometimes they swell to dramatic moments.
Yeah,
Whereas video game soundtracks are specifically designed to kind of fade into the background and also aren't, unless the video game is very well programmed, usually have distinct tracks. Okay, now we're switched to this thing, so you can kind of just load up lots of like backgrounds, low noise, and they're meant to kind of be repetitive and hypnotic.
yeah. It also depends on what I'm working on. Like when I was writing Anima, since I was working on the MMO part of it, I was listening to the World of Warcraft soundtrack because I
That makes
was
sense.
working on a fantasy MMO, and so it made sense to listen to, you know, the fantasy MMO that I played for 10 years. But when I was
Yeah.
working on when I was working on They Came From fiction, I was listening to horror movie soundtracks. So lots of like Halloween and Child's Play and stuff like that. So I you kind of try to set the mood, but yeah, like being able to go to a place and just have like ambient kind of white noise, and somebody occasionally brings you a sandwich is something that
Yeah.
I definitely miss. And having my boyfriend
Yeah.
home has been both things. Like if we can keep each other on track, that's great. But the fact is, we both have ADHD, and
Right.
we can distract each other very easily without meaning to.
Mhm.
And also like we share an office and he's been working half days. So after about 12:30 or so every day, he's in the same room as me, which can be nice once again, because we can just kind of like put our heads down and work quietly and occasionally ask each other a question or whatever, but also can be incredibly distracting.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of a, you know, win-lose situation here where like both things happen.
Yep. Totally.
Do you actually want to talk a little bit about the Pomodoro technique? Because that's something that you recommend to a lot of our folks, and also maybe a
yeah.
little bit of Trello talk. I know that if people really want it, they can go watch the video if you want to get like a much more in-depth thing about this instead of us just kind of like talking about it and bitching. But these are two things that I think we should mention because they come up in every workflow conversation that we have.
No, that's fair. Okay. So the Pomodoro method was kind of what I was talking about a minute earlier about doing a half an hour thing. So basically how it works is you can take courses and get books for it, and you don't need any of it. All it really boils down to is you work for 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, then you work for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break. If you do that 4 times, which is basically 2 hours, you then take a 15-minute break. What comes along with that is for 25 minutes, you're focusing on one task. So it's not just 25 minutes of work TM. It's, for this 5 minutes, I'm going to develop this chapter. For 25 minutes, I'm going to have a talk with one of my freelancers. For 25 minutes, I'm going to do whatever. And then you take a break from that. And by having something external telling you to stop, first of all, it's encouraging you to take breaks, which is also, we talk a lot about how to motivate yourself to get work, but the reverse is also a problem. It's like you can get so sucked up in work that it's 12 hours have gone by and you're not eating. So by having something externally break into your thought process, it's actually helpful to kind of make sure that you're doing things like getting water or walking around. Part of the reason why that works is I know a lot of people are like, no, but I get in the flow, and flow is very important. But studies have found that your most creative periods are at the very beginning and very end of a time period. So if those time periods are 25 minutes in length, you're going to have more peaks than 1 2-hour thing. If you've worked on creative stuff and found like the middle hour of work is kind of just garbage, or you're not happy with it, that's a good example of that. So if you're doing short bursts, then your brain takes a rest and then it comes back in a little fresher, and so you could have another peak of creative or quality work at the 25-minute top, that 25-minute mark. Another thing is that it's okay to fail a Pomodoro, which is like if you are 15 minutes in and someone calls you for a doctor's appointment or whatever, just stop, take care of the thing that's distracting you. Like in my case, it's okay, dog needs to go for a walk. Well, guess I'm going for a walk now. And then you come back and start a new 25-minute sprints, Pomo, and go ahead with that. That's really basically it. There's some other kind of elements and benefits to it, but really at the end of the day, it helps to keep your work focused, and also it helps to keep your work plan from crowding into your brain. It's like, I'm working on just this one thing right now. And like I said before, if you're just not really feeling it, if you do 25 minutes and you can't do anything else, at least you get 25 minutes of work done. At least you got something to show for it. It's not just the whole day is wasted. It's like, okay, well, at least I got a little bit of something accomplished. That's one less I have to do tomorrow. And Trello is a free piece of website software that I use, but it could be on with Post-it notes or a notebook or whatever. And basically, it's just a way to write down your tasks. And I use different what I call lanes. There's backlog. Backlog is basically every task that you need to be doing goes in there, and that's just everything I could possibly need to do. And then I have a this week lane where basically I'm pulling out of the backlog things that I need to work on this week or want to work on this week, and that's where you start to prioritize. It's okay, looking at my backlog, I should probably be getting this writing done now because it's due pretty soon. Then there's a today lane, which is the same thing, just this is what I'm working on today. I have an in progress lane, which is literally, this is the one thing I'm doing. It has what's called a WIP limit, which is the work in progress limit. So only one task can fit in there. So this is the one thing I'm working on right now. So on my board, for example, Pathcast recording is right now the thing that's in progress.
What? We're on your list? Aww.
Yes, because I care about you so much. And also because I want to track my tasks. And then there's a done column, which is important because if you're like writing it down, the satisfaction of crossing something off of the list is palpable. But also at the end of the week, it allows you to see what you've actually done. And that is something that's really easy to overlook how important it is. Because if you feel like you've had a garbage week, you can look at something objective and go, oh, actually, I accomplished a whole lot. Or if you've actually had a garbage week, you can say, no, I genuinely beefed that week. What can I do to improve that? And what caused that to happen? And how can I work around that? It's something that's relatively objective to say, okay, this is what I haven't had not accomplished. And then finally, there's a Sunday lane, which not everyone needs, but I have. It's kind of here's a thing I have is a cool idea. I have no idea. I haven't broken down the tasks. I have no idea what it looks like yet. And no one's asking for it. But at some point, I think I want to do this. So if my tasks run low and I'm not found more work, I'm able to look at that Sunday column and say, oh, yeah, I talked about kicking this new game idea around. So maybe I should pull that off the back burner and start working on I have had tasks sitting in my someday column for at this point 3 years. So I think someday maybe never at this point.
Hey, I mean, how long did Ian work on Trinity?
Longer than 3 years. That is fair.
Yeah, it's okay. Someday might happen. Rich just published The Crossroads Continent. He's working on that for what? More than 30 years? 40 years?
Yeah.
It's been 83 years.
And that was just 2020.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I had like a visceral reaction when he said that. I had like heartburn or something. It was not good.
But yeah, so that's basically, I mean, like I said, if you want to know more, there's a video, I'll throw it in the show notes. But basically, it just really comes down to figure out what you want to work on, and then find a way to capture that so you don't have to think about it anymore, and then focus on one thing at a time. That's really what a lot of this comes down to.
Yeah, and one thing that's good about the Pomodoro method is that if you are like me and you get easily distracted, having that little alarm bell go off makes you be like, oh crap, I've been on Twitter for 20 minutes. Like, let me, take my 5-minute break and shake it out and walk around or whatever, and then come back and actually focus.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. You're right.
Yeah, because that's my favorite aspect of it, is that like I do get distracted, but instead of getting distracted for like 2 hours on a Wikipedia scroll hole, where I'm just like, that happened to me yesterday. I went to look up one little tiny thing that was like musical related, I want to say. And the next thing I know, I'm researching like interesting historical figures I hadn't heard of. For no reason, like not for a project, just because I saw something on Twitter and I was like, I want to know more about this. And so that kind of thing is really difficult for me. But if I have an alarm that goes off after 20 minutes, then I, go, oh shit, I should close this. So yeah, super helpful. I like it. That's our workflow talk. Matthew, do you have any other tips to add?
Do I have any other tips? The main thing I do that is likewise part of that method is that idea of ticking off tasks or clearing tasks or marking them up or whatever as you do them on some kind of database or spreadsheet.
Yeah. I do it physically. I like have a list on paper, and it makes me happy to physically cross it out.
Exactly. It's a silly little psychological technique, but in its simplicity, but it really is effective. The ability to see that you have done something, even if it is something completely minor in the great scheme of things, does make you feel better than not being able to see that. And yeah, it's a psychological technique that can apply to many walks of life and certainly work. But yeah, I very much recommend anyone doesn't necessarily set themselves harsh deadlines to get work done by, because they will inevitably fail and you will inevitably feel bad for doing so. But it's the old idea of rewarding yourself for doing something.
Yep.
And that doesn't necessarily mean spending a lot of money on buying a new video game or getting drunk, although I guess you could do either of those two things. It's just the fact that you do deserve to feel good for having got through work, and especially during this incredibly stressful time that we are living in right now. It isn't easy to just keep your head down and focus on work for 7+ hours a day when it often seems like the things around you are on fire. You need those breaks for your mental health, and you need to remind yourself that you're doing a pretty good job just keeping at it. So, surviving essentially is the victory here. So yeah, don't be afraid to give yourself a pat on the back in some manner or other that you will appreciate when you get work done, because it will make you feel more inclined to go back and do more work, whether it's the same day or the following day.
I try to reward myself for victories for that same reason, because I could sit here and think about all the things that I still need to do and get all anxious and wound up and not actually get anything done, or I could get something done, give myself a little break, or get drunk, whatever, as a reward, and then go on to the next thing. One of my favorite feelings, actually, we use an internal tracking software called ClickUp.
Mhm.
And one of my favorite things is when I get rid of an edit, like when an edit is completed that isn't mine, aside from the fact that it was an editing, and removing myself from the project. Like,
Yeah.
I love, like, I just sent NWE back to y'all, and I sent it
Mhm.
back, and then I was like, goodbye, Dixie, you are no longer on this project. And it makes me feel good, because I often have more projects than all of you, simply because of Exalted Chronicles and the fact that I'm the editing person. So, like, if you look
Right.
at ClickUp, it'll be like Eddy has 43, Matthew has 50, and Dixie has 68. Now, Eddy and Matthew are doing more hands-on work with a lot of those than I am, but
Right.
it still looks scary.
Right.
Even if they have a bigger workload on some of that, it still looks scary to me to be like, Dixie has 73 projects while everybody else only has 40. And it's because Eddy's actively developing Anima, for instance.
Right.
And I'm not actively developing anything except for Essence. So, yeah.
Mhm.
And even that, Monica and Neil are doing the bulk of it. I'm just kind of overseeing the project.
Right. Yep.
But yeah.
It's definitely worth it. Those don't short yourself on those little kind of rewards at all,
Mhm.
because they're so important to keep momentum going.
Yeah, I mean, there have been days when I finish something really hard and I'm like, I'm going to play a video game for 1 hour. And I will set an alarm, and literally
Mhm.
just play it for 1 hour and be like, okay, that's good. I feel a little bit more chill now. I can jump into something else. I've got my, little endorphin high, because I like playing video games.
Mhm.
So it's like, oh, serotonin. What's
Yay,
this?
serotonin.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if people have more questions about this stuff, feel free to jump onto our Discord and ask. I'm always happy to chat about it.
Yeah, we've got a Pathcast channel just for this kind of stuff. So, I mean, don't, ping us at all hours, but feel free. We usually have Discord open and around. I think during our talk, I have been posting GIFs of angry octopuses. Because there was a Francis discussion in the Trinity channel.
Poor Francis.
I love Francis.
We barely knew ye.
Oh, well. And on that note, if people wanted to commiserate with you about Francis, where would they find you, Matthew?
Well, they can find me on MatthewDawkins.com. They can find me on Twitter at DawkinsMP. And I'm very excitingly, I should have mentioned it at the head of the show when people won't be tuning out, but very excitingly looking through some of the finished pages of Mummy the Curse 2nd edition. So that's very exciting. And I have no idea where we are in terms of the projected time scale for that. But I feel like we've done pretty well. Again, pandemic, insurrection, etc. going on.
Well, it's also mummies, so I mean, we just send it backwards in time a few years and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the wonderful thing. If only we'd included a part in the game about timelessness. But thankfully, we can go back in time to add it.
I love it when we realize that something very large and important has been left out of something. It happens every now and then. What?
Really? Love? Is that the word we're using? Love?
I think it's funny, even though you have to fix it. I know something got left out of Anima.
Yes.
And of course the infamous, hey, Mummy the Curse, we're gonna pitch it as being the Timeless Chronicle, it's gonna be so cool. We didn't assign anyone to write that bit. It would be if They Came from Beneath the Sea, didn't have undersea monsters. It's like, this is a problem. I just like it because of the irony, because it's almost always something important to the game. And for some reason, we just missed it, and we're like, "How did we do that?"
Yeah,
How?
I feel I'd have less affection for it if it happened at, let's say, proofing stage.
Oh yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Mike, I don't suppose we could commission another few pieces of art and really lay out this entire chapter, because I need to add 5,000 words.
Oh, he'd be so mad.
Yeah. Oh, he would be so mad.
So if people
Rightfully so.
want to talk about how great Mike is and what an awesome job he does, where would they find you, Eddy, to talk about that?
They would find me at pugstay.com, and from there get access to all my social media accounts. And similar to Matthew, I did want to announce a cool thing where it's going to be happening soon is next Wednesday on this very Pathcast feed.
What?
We'll start releasing episodes of The Tales of the Aeon Society, a radio drama in 6 parts. Featuring the characters of the upcoming Trinity Continuum Adventure 2nd Edition game.
I think you mean adventure.
Sorry, adventure.
Because it's got an
2nd
exclamation
edition,
point.
yes. Right. But no, we commissioned. I wrote the scripts for this. They're like 5-minute episodes, but I wrote 6 episodes worth of scripts, and then we got one of our friends at Broken Bart Studios to do an audio drama reenactments of those scripts, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I just listened through them a couple days ago, and they're loads of fun. So we'll be putting those every Wednesday on the Pathcast feed, and they'll also be available on theonyxpath.com, and I believe we're also going to put them up on DriveThruRPG if for some reason you don't want to listen to them through this feed, which you're listening to now, so it's going to be weird.
I do have something to say about adventure. A little known fact: it is the only part of the Trinity Continuum that has crossover with They Came From's universe.
It's true.
Really?
Yeah,
really?
Via the exclamation. That's it.
I see.
That's it. It's a game with an exclamation. Therefore, I consume it as part of my They Came From milieu. It is now one of mine. Sorry, Ian.
They Came From Adventure.
Wait, does that mean that NWE is also one of yours?
If we can get another exclamation in the title, because it's currently N!WE Unleashed. If we can get another exclamation after Unleashed, that's doubly They Came From.
This is like the
They
longest.
came from the squared circle, brother.
This is the longest outro we've ever done.
It really is.
Speaking of things we didn't mention during the episode that we should have, Scion, Dragon, and Mass of the Mythos are currently on Kickstarter.
Yes.
They are doing super well.
Really, really well.
We're very excited about them and want to add more things to them via stretch goals. So go check out that Kickstarter. That will be linked in the show notes, I'm assuming. Also, you can see a bunch of us very soon at Virtual HorrorCon, hosted by our friends at Gehenna Gaming, along with our friends at Carrion Comfort Studios. We are one of the sponsors, not we as of the 3 of us, but we as an Onyx Path are one of the sponsors for that convention. It's the second Virtual HorrorCon. Of course, we had the first one like 1 month into the COVID pandemic. I still applaud the Gehenna Gaming folks for putting that together so quickly. This one, they've had a lot more time to work on. So I'm very excited to see what they're putting together for it. That's going to be, I think, around the February 19th through 21st, maybe? I don't know what dates are. I believe
Matthew and I at least are running games for that.
Yes, I think you do running games. I don't run games, but I will be on panels. I might moderate some things. I might play in a game or two. I know I'm playing in at least one streamed game leading up to it. Over on Gehenna Gaming. So we will also link to the Virtual HorrorCon website in the show notes if you're interested in looking at that and signing up when signups are open. With all that said, you can find me most places as Dixie Cyanide, including in, I started playing Star Wars The Old Republic again, and I have made a character with green hair whose name is Dixie Cyanide, but spelled kind of weird because it's Star Wars.
Right.
And then you can also find us at theonyxpath.com or the Onyx Path on most social media. As always, many worlds, one Pathcast.